Conditions seem to be improving at the Fanshawe Golf Course in London, Ontario, as there is one individual race left to go at the 2024 Canadian Cross Country Championships. As we get a look at the current weather conditions, right around -2 right now, as the U20 women are getting set for their race.
Quite a departure, Adam, from yesterday's conditions where we just saw absolutely blowing snow, crazy strong winds. We had kind of a mix of everything yesterday, and while it remains cool, well, I'll go with cold. It's not frigid. How about that?
Well, not frigid, I think, is something that these athletes will gladly take as they start to take off their sweats. These athletes will run 4 laps of the 2-kilometer course. And Kate, this too shaping up to be a very exciting championship race with quite a few athletes in contention for top spot.
As we saw with the senior races, not quite as deep a field on the U20 women's side as the U20 men's, but still, to your point, Adam, lots and lots of top talent. So a few athletes to keep an eye on will be the top returner from last year in this race. That is Abby Lewis. She's an 18-year-old from Athletics East, Nova Scotia. She was 5th in the U20 category last year, 2nd at the Canadian U20 Championships in the 3,000 meter on the track this summer. She's going to be joined by Athena Andrasek, who's running up in age category. She's only 16 years old, so could have been in the U18 race, but choosing to run up with the U20 women. She is the senior OFSA cross-country champion from this fall, was 5th at that Canadian U20 3,000 meter earlier this summer. And to round out some more results from that exact race on the track, Charlotte Sinke, the freshman at the University of Oregon, brand new duck out on the West Coast, originally from Alberta, competing for the Calgary Spartans, was 3rd at that Canadian U20 3000 meet this summer, was 12th at these cross-country championships last fall, and looking to find herself on her first podium after gaining some NCAA experience with Oregon over the last 3 months.
Athletes going through their final preparations now. And this the final individual race of the championships. The championships will end with a pilot relay race. It'll be a U18 4x2 kilometer mixed race. And that will follow this U20 women's final.
Another name to keep your eye on here as we get ready for the start of this race is Sophia Chino, 17-year-old running for Runner's Edge Track Club out of Ontario. She was 16th last year and 12th at the U20 3000 meter this summer. 11th at ACXC in 2022 in the U18 category.
Mental preparations for these women as they are about to come to the line. And they're off in the U20 women's 8K. Four laps of this 2-kilometer course, which is a little less snow-covered than we saw yesterday. The flurries, if they have been here today, they've been light. Get a look at the start list for this race. "41 athletes in this field.
Only one runner, Adam, returning from last year's top 10. And as I mentioned, that is Abby Lewis, who placed 5th last year. Again, this is sort of an interesting age category because it's really only a two-year age group unless you choose to run up an age category. Several of these athletes, as we said, on the men's side, moving up to the open or senior categories next year. And we saw lots of last year's top performers from the U20 race in that senior race in the forms of Marika Couture and a few others. So we'll see if Abby Lewis can hold on to a top 10 place again or improve it to a podium. Like we said, she's got some good company in the forms of Andrzejczyk and Sinke and Chino. Another athlete to look to is running out of Saskatchewan. That's Jaden Palaschuk, the 19-year-old. Who was 5th at the Canadian U20 5,000 meter this summer. She is a sophomore at Long Beach State University, studying chemical engineering. We've been talking about how many of these runners are opting for some pretty challenging academic fields as well, so they're smart and fast.
Hard to believe there's so many hours in the day where you can train to be a high-level athlete while also studying chemical engineering, but she's clearly making it work. Get a look at the athletic elevation tracker at the bottom of the screen. This is a fairly flat part of the course. Kate, this race playing out a little differently early on than what we've seen so far today. We've seen bigger groups at the front, but right now, 2 athletes leading the way with a group of 3 a little bit behind them, and that group of 3 has been pulled apart.
And I believe that's Athena Andrzejczyk up at the front. She's one of those 2 racers on the, if you're looking at the left of those 2 in the darker kit. Again, coming off of that phenomenal performance at the OFSAA Cross Country Championships in the fall, earlier this fall rather, taking the title in the senior race. What a way to cap off your high school running career with a win. You're running your high school season, I should say. She is a younger athlete, Andrzejczyk. She is only 16, so she was a first-year senior and has an opportunity to come back and try to defend that Ontario title next year. But right now, she's got her eyes set on taking top marks here in this U20 race nationally. And again, yeah, really strong, brave running to push things hard right from the get-go like this.
That early push can be a bit of a double-edged sword. We saw it in the U20 men's race with Xavier Paris-Phaneuf. He got out to a substantial early lead, but then he had the eventual winner of the race, Yamane Mulugeta, reel him in right now it's Andrusek up in this lead too, as she looks to move up an age category and secure a victory on the national stage.
So athletes looking to take just slightly different approaches here as they veer on one side of the course or the other, and then powering together up that hill is to both runners' advantage because they'll have each other to sort of push. I believe that's Sinky in third right now, Charlotte Sinky in the blue kit. But she's a few good strides back from our two leaders running in tandem right now, with Andrusek just taking the slight edge on the left of screen.
Now the breakaway pair of two at the front, Kate, how much will that duo work together in this race?
Well, hopefully as much as they possibly can. You know, you made reference to our last race with the boys and how it was a bit of a different tactic in that we did see them running together, but not until the third lap of this race with a big gap by Paras Vanuf early on. And like I said, it's to both runners' advantage to work hard together up at the front and keep pushing, knowing that there is probably some combined momentum of 2 or 3, 4 runners behind them, just stalking them through every stride. So it's always better, like I said yesterday, to suffer in company.
So the lead duo of Andrusek and Lewis are coming up to the 2K split. They come through that in 7:16.3 for Andrusek and 7:17 for Lewis. And then it's a big gap back to Charlotte Sinky, who comes through 2 kilometers in third place, but she is more than 12 seconds behind Abby Lewis.
And Lewis knows what it's like to have to fight for every position. As I mentioned, she is the top returner from this race last year, placing 5th. It was a sprint finish between herself and Muriel Lovshin, both finishing in 21:56 last year. So it was a battle right to the line, with Lewis just taking the slight edge. And again, you have to be strong, but having just that extra gear right when it matters counts for so much as well. And Lewis obviously able to gain that advantage last year. She's also beaten Sinky, Andrusek, and Chino this year in that 3,000 meter on the track in the summer. So she'll be knowing that she's got some gears and some wheels to work with when it comes to the shorter distances.
Again, a good showing by Andrusek early on. Again, she's running up a category, 16-year-old athlete. Member of the Physicult team is Andrusek out of Ontario. And Kate, if she is able to hang on and take the win here, that would be quite a November for her, as she already took home the OFSA cross-country title. Actually, I guess it's December now, so quite the November, beginning of December for her. Let's just call it that.
Quite the last couple weeks, Adam. How's that for you? And it has been for sure. And she is just continuing to really make sure that Lewis is working for every stride. Every time Lewis gets up on her shoulder, Andrusek pulls ahead again. So she's obviously feeling pretty good. Now, she'll probably have done her research and know that Lewis, like I said, has got some wheels. Last year in July of 2023, Lewis came away as double NACAC U18 champion in the 1500 meter and the 3000 meter. So she's got international credentials to her name. She's very fast. Again, 1500, 3000 meter specialist. And Andrusek probably knows that she can't, for that reason, leave it to a sprint finish. And she's just really, really keeping things honest throughout this second lap.
Game of cat and mouse right now between Andrusek and Lewis, who opened up a big lead over the rest of the field on that opening lap. Again, Andrusek through in 7:16.3, Lewis right behind her at 7:17, and then Sinky third through the opening lap at 7:29.7. So Andrusek makes the move at that corner to give herself a little more space from Lewis. Well, Lewis not going anywhere. She's going to move to Andrusek's outside and put a charge on here. So you're right, Kate. Every time that Andrusek can feel that challenge from Lewis, she counters it. And if you're Andrusek, do you just tuck in right now and maybe make your challenge a little later on? Or are you too worried about the speed of, or excuse me, if you're Lewis, do you hang back and then maybe make the challenge a little later on Andrusek?
My read on this is that if Lewis is, she's just doing all she can to try to hold on right now. And I think Andrusek probably knows that. If Andrusek decided to take on the pacemaking duties early like that, she has to commit to it. Once you make that move, you've kind of shown your hand, and you're all or nothing at that point. The turnover looks good for both athletes. I think Andrusek, your leader, just looks like she's a little bit poppier, is coming off the ground a little bit faster. Now, she keeps trying to shake Lewis, and Lewis keeps responding. And that's exactly what Lewis needs to do. I've said it before in cross-country calls, but one of my favorite lines by my dad and my coach was, it's easier to keep up than to catch up. All you have to be focused on if you're Lewis right now is trying to match every stride and do it for 10 more seconds. Do it for 10 more seconds. Because the moment you lose that concentration or let the gap develop, it can be all over in the space of about 30 seconds. So Lewis doing a great job of holding on to the young Andrusek. Andrusek, to her credit, just powering up that hill. And like I said, showing no signs of fatigue right now. Really fast, high turnover, strong arm carriage, running through the top of that hill. Like I said earlier, that's really the key to that. Get up the hill and then keep powering forward rather than slowing down to recover. And look at the gap back now to our chasers, which at last count included Sinky and Gabrielle Hamel. Gabrielle Hamel, an 18-year-old for Zinex de la Maurizii. And she raced in the U18 division last year, placing 27th. So this is a great increase in position for her at this point in the race.
So the battle on up at the front for the gold medal, but a battle brewing behind Andrusek and Lewis as well for the bronze medal as it stands right now. Sinky still running in third, as the leaders get ready to come through 2 laps and 4 kilometers. Andrusek has pulled away a little bit from Lewis. And as they come across the line there, we'll get the splits. So 14:21.3 for Andrusek, 14:23.5 for Lewis. And still waiting to see the third place runner enter the frame. And there they come now. Appears to still be Sinky running in third. So as they cross there. We'll just wait for their splits. But Andrusek and Lewis, a substantial lead at the front. Lewis hanging around Andrusek. Andrusek trying to put a little separation between herself and Lewis. At that last time interval, the 4K, she had done so. About a 2-second advantage. Andrusek out of Ontario in the Physicult team. Abby Lewis from Athletics East, Nova Scotia.
Adam, it's worth mentioning that when Andrusek took the win in that senior girls OFSA cross-country race this year, she did so by a dominant 30 seconds over none other than Eleanor Voikin, who of course has had a phenomenal early career herself, placed well in the top 10 in the U18 race yesterday. So she knows how to front run. You talked about this earlier. Does she kind of bide her time, or does she keep pushing? And as you see, she's increased that distance significantly just over the last 2 minutes or so. This is a familiar tactic for her. When we watched that race and called that race, Adam, at OFSA Championships earlier this year, she did something very similar. Took her time through the first lap of the race and then just continued increasing, kept the pressure on, pushed from the front, and came away, like I said, with a 30-second win over any other runner in the field. And kudos to Lewis, because she's working really, really hard to stay with our leader. But Andrusek knows how to get the job done. She's used this tactic before. And right now, everything's indicating that it is working.
Well, here's the perspective we can give you at that 4K split. As mentioned, Andrusek through 14:21.3. Lewis just over 2 seconds behind her. But then back to third place. That was Charlotte Sinke. She was more than 32 seconds behind Abby Lewis. So the duo of Andrusek and Lewis far ahead right now, and it's Andrusek trying to pull herself far ahead from Lewis on this third lap.
And even at this point, if Lewis is starting to struggle a bit, maybe feeling that she doesn't have, you know, the energy or momentum she needs to try to get up and fight for that top position, she should be aware, hopefully, again, getting some feedback on course, of the time advantage she has over third place. The closer she can stay to Andrusek, even if she doesn't come away with the win, will only help her in ensuring that she holds on to that silver medal position.
Again, I don't think we can say this enough. Andrusek is running up an age group as well. She's eligible still to run in the U18 race, but here she is with the lead in the U20 race. So regardless of what happens through the final portion of this race, Kate, Athena Andrusek is certainly going to be a name to remember moving forward in Canadian track circles.
It will be, and I think that she and her team, you know, they seem to have made a really good decision here in running her up in age group because, again, she's dominating. She has the experience from this fall, winning many of her races, knowing that she needs to put herself in positions where she can at least have, you know, the opportunity of a challenge. And Lewis has given that to her through the first, you know, 2/3 of this race or so. But this will be helpful, I think, in her development as well moving forward. It'll help with her confidence. It'll help her to run a slightly longer distance so that when she tackles this event again next year, she's familiar with the course, familiar with the 8K. This is a long race, you have to remember, for a 16-year-old. So she's, I think, you know, she and her team are making a really good call, smart decision here, and hopefully it'll continue benefiting her through the rest of her development.
Lewis still hanging around, though. See what kind of final push that she can make. Just a little over 1 lap left to go as they come up to the hill here. We saw the determination on Andrusek's face the last time she ran this hill. Another good push for the 16-year-old. And one report that we got about the course yesterday, Kate, came from your father, who ran in the Masters race early on day one. He said the footing was pretty good. It seems to be that that is holding up.
Again, it's a true cross-country course. It's got the rolls, it's got the hills, it's got the hay bales, but I gotta tell you, having raced a lot of cross-country, when you have a well-groomed golf course and just solid, smooth, consistent footing, it makes all the difference, especially when you get some of that nasty white stuff accumulating on course. So yeah, conditions looking pretty good. Again, it's a much better day today than yesterday, as you see Charlotte Sinke in the all blue trying to shake the competitors just behind her. I believe that was Charlotte Sinke in the lead, and Hamill and Chino at last look were those in touch with her. But yes, runners I think will be quite grateful for strong footing and safe footing, which is the most important thing. But look at the turnover of Andrusek. This young woman has just kept pounding away at this course. Looks like she's just exhibiting a little bit of signs of fatigue now, but that's to be expected after how much work she's put in. Overall, though, she looks pretty fresh as Lewis does all she can to desperately keep Andrusek in her sights.
Andrusek threw 6 kilometers in 21:32.8. About 10 seconds faster than Lewis. That lap 7:11.5 for Andrusek, 7:18.9 for Lewis. So Andrusek slowing down a little bit on that last lap as she came through lap 2 in 7:05. But she
Adam,
comes through that third lap with
consistency.
a bigger lead.
She does, and this has been a very strong run for her. 7:16 her opening lap, 7:05 her second, and then 7:11 her third. So just about 10 seconds variance across all 3 laps. That's good running.
And the fight on for the bronze medal now between Sinke and Hamel. Sinke threw 6 kilometers, 22:27.7, just ahead of Hamel, 22:28.1. And Sino 5th at 22:31.1, so only about, or less than 4 seconds separating 3 through 5th, or 3rd through 5th at 6K. So that'll be an interesting matchup to watch in this last lap as well. Of course, Andrusek has asserted herself very well through 3+ laps now, has built up a 10-second lead on Abby Lewis. Okay, this trio, your ones to watch: Andrusek in first, Lewis in second, and Sinke at last check, holding on to that 3rd spot right now. Andrusek finished 31st in the U18 race last year. She could still be racing in the U18 category this year, but moving on up. And that looks to have been a very wise choice, as she is just increasing her lead right now on Abby Lewis.
Yeah, great perspective there of how much of that course is just empty behind her. This is a lonely place to be. You got to dig deep mentally at this point. Not a whole lot of running left. And you actually can see that she's starting to gap some runners, but there's Lewis. So Andrusek maintaining the distance, but Lewis, a shadow, albeit a far off shadow, still there. And all it would take would be sort of a bonk or hitting the wall or, something like that happening. It doesn't appear as it will, and hopefully it won't for our leader. But the point is, Lewis still part of the conversation as they approach the hay bales for the last time on this course. And you see the other athlete just being passed there as Andrusek tries to keep her turnover high over those barriers. She can probably feel that she's nearing the finish. They're going to come down here and around a hairpin turn with about 1 kilometer left, so she'll get to glance back at where Lewis is and get some good information about exactly how hard she needs to push right to the end.
That hard turn we saw on the last lap was, sorry, it may have been 2 laps ago now, where she made a pretty definitive move on Lewis. She cut hard in that corner, and that seemed to be the beginning of where she was able to shake Lewis.
Cross country is so punishing, and you kind of have to be a little bit masochistic about it. You have to really lean into the pain, lean into the discomfort, not just for yourself, but making the hurt mount for your competitors as well. If you can throw in a surge on a steep hill, if you can throw in a surge around a tight corner, again, it can just sort of break the runners behind you and make all the difference. It's been smart, strong running, as you see our trio of chasers with Sinky has been doing all the work trying to lead that group. But Andrusek at this point, Adam, I can't imagine that she's going to get caught. And this, what a run for the youngster, and what a fall it's been.
So we'll keep an eye on that battle for the bronze behind our leader Andrusek and our second place runner right now, Abby Lewis. Valiant effort by Lewis. She was able to stick with Andrusek for a while, but Andrusek has just proven to be too much on this day, as she is looking to cap her cross-country season in style.
Sure, she'll think back on this race next year if she chooses to compete again at the U20 category. Lots of comfort now with this course. I shouldn't say comfort. It's uncomfortable no matter what, but familiarity as she strides up the hill. Look at the power. She's a slight athlete, but gets so much out of every step on that hill. Arms just driving forward, propelling her up. And it has been a brilliant run by the 16-year-old as Lewis now makes her way up that very steep hill for the last time. I'm sure these runners are thinking, that's the last time I have to do it. It's all just a push to home now, and they're in the closing meters of this U20 race.
Now Lewis in second. She was 5th a year ago, but looking like she's going to find herself on the podium in 2024. There's the battle on for the bronze medal right now. Charlotte Sinky still leading, and I believe that is Sophia Chino, who has moved into 4th place, and Hamel now running in 5th. As that trio comes to the hill for the final time. And Athena Andrusek into the final straightaway now. It's been quite the fall for this 16-year-old. She was the OFSA champion back in November, and she is going to add a Canadian title to her resume. Athena Andrusek wins it here in impressive fashion. She takes the title, and she comes through at a time of 29:02.7. And the Lewis will cross in second place as she comes to the line here. And Abby Lewis from Athletics East Nova Scotia, second place at a time of 29:24.9. So that is a 22-plus second winning margin for Andrusek. She's used to those big winning margins, as we saw at OFSA earlier this fall. And the fight on now for the bronze medal. It's Sinky still leading the way. Chino running in 4th. And Hamel in 5th, and it's going to be Sinky taking the bronze medal. She comes through 29:55.9. Chino in 4th, and Hamel across in 5th.
Adam, I've got to say, a 16-year-old putting the gears and the hurt to two athletes who are in some of the best performing programs in the NCAA. Lewis out of Boston College and then Sinky at the University of Oregon. That just really kind of contextualizes this dominance of this young teenager and bodes well for whatever she chooses to do next. Of course, hopefully the first order of business is just celebrating this win here at the U20 Championships at ACXC 24. But my goodness, what a run and what a great performance by all 5 of our top athletes.
Well, remember that name, Athena Andrusek. A dominant performance here to win the U20 race. And I wonder, do we perhaps see her in the U18 4x2 mixed race? Or, I mean, that would be quite a turnaround. But she is eligible to run in it.
That would be quite a cool down.
Doing elementary, yeah. And do you have any shout outs for anyone that might have been watching over the live stream today?
Yeah, I just wanted to do like a shout out to my coach, Steve Boyd. He's really knowledgeable. He's really helped me carry on, especially throughout high school. And like my parents as well. They're around here somewhere and just like supporting me and everything. It's just, I couldn't have done it without all of them. It's really great.
And what's your favorite workout of Steve's?
He's very fond of kilometer repeats, so I get to do those a lot, and I've gotten used to them, I guess.
Sounds like fun. Well, Athena, congratulations. Ça, c'était Athena Andrasic qui vient de remporter la couronne des U20 malgré son jeune âge de 16 ans. Athena qui s'entraîne à Kingston avec son entraîneur Steve Boyd dit qu'elle a remporté le championnat des écoles secondaires, un peu plus de bonheur cette année, et maintenant elle dit qu'elle va continuer dans le terrain de cross-country. Alors Athena, félicitations. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thank you, Alex. And what an impressive cross-country season for that young woman. An OFSA title, and now wins the U20 Canadian Championship as an underager.
In the last individual race of the day, thrilling performances yet again. It was the battle between Andrasic and Lewis up those steep hills, but Andrasic started to pull away over the third lap, taking advantage of those tight turns, driving with the arms on every hill and putting the gears to the more experienced Lewis. Andrasic, just 16 years old, coming off the OFSA win of her life earlier this season, and now adding to her titles a win at the U20 Canadian Cross Country Championships.
One race to go of the 2024 Canadian Cross Country Championships, the U18 4x2 mixed relay, and it's coming up at 2:45.
Water is essential to life, to every cell, organ, and muscle function. With a choice of refreshing flavors, Organica electrolytes provide 100% of your daily value of vitamin C, zero sugar and caffeine-free, to elevate the flavor of your water, making hydration an easy habit. Wherever your day takes you, simply add Organica electrolytes to your water and take the taste of hydration to the next level.
Save the date, mark your calendar.